There are only a handful of wrestling matches that have changed the world. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Ric Flair versus Antonio Inoki at Collision in Korea. And I'm sure you could name numerous others that came close in the comments below, and most of what you'll see there are matches that happened in the United States that occurred in a WWE ring. But the one match that has done more to alter the course of human history in recent years would happen in Japan between two wrestlers who probably would have been treated like mid-card jobbers in the WWE, Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada, for New Japan Pro Wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom 11. This match would kickstart a revolution that would not only lead to a foreign promotion having unprecedented success in North America, but would also culminate in the creation of a secondary, yet very successful big-budget wrestling promotion emerging in America, All Elite Wrestling.
I've been telling people on this channel to subscribe, and they won't.
Yes?
What can we do about that? Can you help me out? Maybe if you tell them to subscribe, they'll do
You
it.
threaten them. I'll threaten them
Yeah,
for you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. You don't have to do it or you're cursed.
Tyson Smith, born October 16, 1983, better known by the ring name Kenny Omega, is a Canadian-born professional wrestler. He is signed to All Elite Wrestling, where he is also an executive vice president. Omega had his first pro wrestling match in the year 2000 and would be invited to try out for the WWE in 2005.
So I went to this camp. Harley Race is like, well, we decided to add a surprise. There's a grand prize to this goddamn thing. The finalists go to Noah, but the grand prize, the ultimate prize, is going to be a WWE contract. He's like,
everyone go,
yeah, and everyone was really quiet. They're all like, oh. Kind of like, oh,
how many
shit.
dudes?
I was gonna say, how many dudes were this thing?
There was a lot, like
50, 40?
think-
yeah, I'll say 50, but
How many look like
there was
shit?
50, but it was split up into two arenas where like there was like a mini ring that didn't really have a spring or like much padding, and that was just working on chain wrestling. Yeah, like really green guys. So Johnny's didn't even want to pay attention to that area. So there's like a good 30 of us, you know, that
30
were
potential
that were
hopefuls?
kind of competent in the ring.
Okay.
And then Harley was like, yeah, we got a lot of great guys coming out from our school. I'd like to direct the attention here to this man. He was just this big, huge guy, like the most jacked guy of the entire roster. So Johnny Ace goes right away, he goes, I like you. You look like Batista. We already got one. And then Harley's like, well, if I may, can I direct your attention to me?
Harley Race hated me for whatever reason. I guess he was upset that I wasn't one of his guys, but Johnny Ace wanted to see more and more of my stuff. So I had to do like 4 practice matches back to back. And Harley would put me up against his best guys, I guess hoping that they would outshine me or eat me up. And yeah, I guess I did get eaten up in the end. And you know, like I was like all bleeding and stuff because they're taking liberties with me. But I'm not sure what it was they're looking for, but for whatever reason, Johnny Ace liked me and chose me to go to developmental.
So we did practice matches, and I got put in with Keith Walker right away because Harley didn't like me. So Keith wasn't giving me anything, just eating me.
I've never actually seen Keith
and I would
Walker
try
wrestle.
to fight
like a road warrior.
Yeah, so I tried to fight back on him, and he would no-sell it and shut me down, like completely no-sell. And then Johnny was like, whoa, stop. Why the fuck you no-selling him? how does that benefit you? How does that benefit the match?
You guys calling this?
He's like, change. Yeah, it's just like you going cold. Yeah, you going cold.
Oh.
Yeah. So then they bring another one of Harley's guys, and it was a guy like more around my size. So we actually started working an actual match, and the match is pretty decent. And I just call it back elbow one point in time. So I stick the back elbow out, and he just runs full steam into it. And I swear to God, like there's nothing. I didn't follow through anything, but he ran into it, and he tried to do like the twisted kind of bump, like Kurt
bump.
No, like more like the Kurt Hennig, like where you kind of twist it on your belly or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he popped his own nose with it. His nose started bleeding, and Harley's like, "Now let me stop this match. What are you doing trying to take the man's head off?" and then Johnny Ace was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You see the way that guy tried to bump? Who do you think you are?" He's like,
so Harley.
yeah. So they're going back and forth, and then Kobashi's like, "Hey, I like this guy. I want to see him again." And then, Johnny's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna ace crush you if you steal my guy." You know what I mean? They're all like joking around, and he's like, "No," I like him. He's like, "No, I like him. I'll ace crush you." And they're like joking around.
Real thing.
And and the press are all looking. They're like, "Oh, he's gonna ace crush him," and they're like taking pictures. They're joking around. They're like,
So they're really
they're just really giddy or whatever.
Literally in front of you.
Yeah. It's just like
They were playing tug of war.
Yeah.
So this is, let me get this straight. This is Johnny Ace and the most legendary Japanese wrestler of all time, Kenta Kobashi.
Yeah, joking around. He's pretending he's
like,
he's like, "I'm gonna step off these bleachers."
There's media there. There's media there. So
they were literally playing tug of war.
He's all like, "Oh, come on." He's like, "Nope, I'm hooking you. We're going."
Yo, what were you thinking? You're like WWE and Japan's fucking.
Yeah, I'm just like,
right now.
no, right? I was like, okay, these are two guys from Japan. Like, this is not a WWE guy. Like, this is not. I haven't heard stories like this about anyone from Japan ever. But
what were
this
you
is
thinking?
cool.
Where did you want to go when you knew they both wanted to?
I was like, I don't care where I go, but like, if I go to WWE, I want Chinese to look after me at this point. So, whatever. And I wrestle another match, like, just, they just bring another guy in. But it wasn't one of Harley's guys, it was just a guy. So we had a normal match with a normal finish, and it was fine. And then at the end of the day, they line us all up, and then Harley's like, I want to talk about, from the heart, which guys I liked and which guys I didn't like.
Just in front of everybody.
He's like, you, I like. You, man, look great. And he's like, you, great fundamentals. Wow, I could do some things with you. And he's like, you, little reckless boy. Because I guess he's talking about the nose again, right?
Yeah.
He's like a little reckless.
But you said though, I remember he was playing favoritism to his guy.
Oh
his guy. So like,
of course.
It was all his students.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a little reckless kid.
Yeah, you're a little reckless. I don't know what to think about you. Don't know if I could put you on that card at the end of the week.
But now was he shutting down?
Can't have anyone getting hurt now.
Was he shutting down?
And then Johnny Ace was like, whoa, Harley, calm the fuck down. So he's like, let me talk about this kid if you don't mind. And he's like, hey, by all means, floor is yours. Go ahead. I ain't listening, but go ahead, And he's like, this is probably the only guy that could stand up in front of all of you and cut a 1.5 minute promo and actually be entertaining. I look at all of you and you're all cookie cutter bullshit. and then I was like, whoa. There's be fat words here.
In October 2005, Omega was sent to Deep South Wrestling, that at the time was a WWE developmental territory, but by August 2006, Omega would request his release from his contract.
Go to WWE, and there was this feeling that it wasn't good enough, that I wasn't enough for them. And perhaps I wasn't. But it really affected me mentally, and it affected the way that I went about my training. It affected the way that I went about my living. And I remember I was in incredible shape because I knew that they were going to Deep South Wrestling because I had done the tryout and it was incredibly physically demanding. But he's like, it punished me. But I got through it, got signed. And I knew that, okay, it's going to be demanding, but I need to be what WWE is looking for. And I was, I think, a lean 197. And I remember feeling very good at 203, like 103 pounds. But I thought, no, like it's not enough. I saw those guys. They're huge. And I got myself 227 pounds. 227 pounds. And that's the biggest that I've ever been. And I mean, you could land in, my back was like an aircraft carrier. Like I've got really good genetics for back and lats. So my quads, I had like the RVD quads, and I had this huge, I don't want to say Ronnie Coleman back, but you know, it's a big back. So how was I in Deep South? I'd like to think of myself at that time. I was kind of like a mood maker. I was the morale guy. Tried to be. We always had make a deal Fridays, and as physical as the training was, we're talking like we were there 12 hours. We were there for 12 hours, just getting run into the ground. We would get an hour lunch, but you knew that when you came back, the intent was to make you throw up, so you didn't even want to eat your lunch. Well, I lost my lunch, and I came in there 227. I remember that when after doing this stuff all day, not eating properly at all, getting down on myself, probably getting a little depressed, all that sort of stuff, and feeling like I'm going to be on a huge waiting list if I ever get called up. So let's do what I can for the boys that are here. Win all the Make a Deal Fridays so that we can get a day off. So I made myself like calisthenics machine. So when you're talking about like, push-up competitions, running competitions, long distance stuff, pushing the truck, running to town square and back, squats, walking the wall, all that sort of weird stuff, slamming the punching bag over and over and over again. Doing all those challenges, I was like tuning my body for that. So it wasn't to look like a TV wrestler. So I got down, believe it or not, I was 178 or 9. It was from 227 to 179 in like half a year. It's crazy.
How was Bill as a trainer? Do you feel that he took advantage of people?
I think that he certainly took advantage of his position of power. If I were to run a seminar, for example, or if I were to train anybody, I would not tell them, I wouldn't try to train them something that I didn't understand. I would try to train them something that I could definitely train them correctly and safely, and only things that could benefit their career in a positive manner. I think that possibly because Bill was in a position to be a WWE trainer, he may have been expected to be like the jack of all trades, like the epitome of what a pro wrestling trainer should be. So I think he stepped out of his comfort zone a lot and tried to train things that he wasn't qualified for doing. I think he understood like the power plant philosophy and how to break guys down mentally and emotionally and stuff like that to rebuild them back up. I think he's got that down. But I think any sort of like pro wrestling aspect, he wasn't the greatest pro wrestling teacher, which is why, Dave Cheller was like a godsend for all of us there.
Describe his training methods and why they weren't good for WWE developmental.
I think, as much as I enjoyed the physical aspect of the training, like I loved having to do a ton of squats, a ton of push-ups. I loved running around the town. Like we'd have to run to like town square, like touch a statue, come back. Sometimes we'd push vehicles and stuff like that. That was fun to me, actually. A lot of people hated it, even though it didn't really relate to pro wrestling. But I think being in shape relates to wrestling.
Yeah.
We all have to be complete athletes. I think the stuff where it started to get questionable was like when we would do drills like, okay, everybody line up. You're going to go in the ring and a guy's going to pitch you to the floor. And then just keep going around and keep getting pitched to the floor. And we'd already had like 5-10 years in the business at this point. Like we know how to take getting pitched to the floor.
Right.
At this point, it's just like
a risk to injury.
Yeah.
So we'd get pitched to the floor, and then it was like, no, you guys are doing it all wrong. We want you to hit the floor, but then like hit the floor and bounce and roll into the guardrail. It's like, what? Why do we have to do that? So we're hitting the floor and slamming ourselves into the guardrail, hitting the floor and slamming ourselves into the guardrail. And it's like, when you do that enough times, you're going to start to get these nagging like scrapes and bumps. And then if you're doing that every day, it eats away at you.
Yeah.
And
anybody say anything to him? Or you couldn't?
No, it's almost like we couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? There were times when people would sit out or whatever, and then they would just get made fun of, And I did understand that, because that's like being the hard coach, like, what's the matter, can't handle it kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do get that. But I mean, we had guys that were getting legitimately hurt, like guys blowing out their knees, guys tearing their biceps. And these are on stupid drills that never made them a better wrestler. There was no need for it whatsoever. And I just think that if it was handled a little differently, where Bill could have done that physical aspect of the training only, and then Dave would have done anything wrestling related, I think it would have been like a better
fit.
Yeah, like wrestler-student or coach-student relationship between everybody, and the morale would have been a lot higher too, I think.
Is it true that if you weren't going out drinking with him, he wouldn't push you to the office? I've heard rumors of that. I don't know how true it is.
Right. I would say it was certainly the popular theory.
Right.
At that time.
He had his boys then?
Yeah. I mean, there were people that hung out with him in their spare time, and those were coincidentally the people that kept getting sent up. If it was my opinion, I would say they weren't necessarily the right people to go. But really, was it my opinion? No, of course not. Bill was the guy in charge. Is it right? Is it wrong? I mean, for me, I do believe that hard work should be rewarded, and I think the best guys should go up. And I think if you send the best guys up, it's going to look better on you in the end. I mean, right?
People would walk in like the room and wait to see if Bill was on the floor, because we're like, what kind of mood is Bill going to be in? Either you're going to walk in and Bill's going to be like, hey, how you doing, champ? Like, fucking hell yeah. Or it's going to be this.
Yeah, he's my brother.
And like it ruins your day. It fucks your whole day, because then you're like, fuck, I gotta do a Bill all day.
But he does it knowing it's gonna fuck your day.
But this is the thing. Like, sure, like, so he had to play his gimmick, like the hard ass fucking. I had this
the tough enough cameras were rolling.
In his head. Hard, like, and like it just changed. Like earlier in the day, we're in the office, and he's like, "Hey, come in the office. Let's talk. Let's catch up. See how things are going here." And I'd go out of it like one of two ways. A, like, hell yeah, Bill likes me. This is going to be a good day. This is going to be a good week. Or he'd speak in these weird riddles that you leave being more confused. He's like, today's Tuesday, but we need you on a Friday, but it's Thursday. And you'd leave and you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
This is Thunder Rosa from the Graveyards of Tijuana, Mexico. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, The Parts Unknown, and Grave Diggers keep digging.
I think it sucked that Bill always put the good word in for his buddies only, instead of doing his job, Like, I think he should have been more vocal about the guys that were actually trying hard and the guys that could actually complete the drills. Instead, he was always just putting over the guys that were coming over to his place to have barbecues and stuff. That's the part of Bill that I didn't like. And like, that's a part where I can say, like, you weren't a real coach. In that regard, you're sort of like a rinky-dink, like, stand-in kind of guy. And I knew, like, when Bill was being himself, he was really funny. Like, I like his humor a lot, and I would laugh at like a lot of the stuff he did. But it's like when he wanted to do his tough enough character, where he was being like this fake badass, it was so transparent. It's like, I know you're acting, like, just fucking cut the shit. Like, there's a camera watching the training because, like, your training's already in question. But, like, don't perform to it. You know what I mean? Like, we're all just trying to be better, and we just, like, we don't want to be all banged up and hurt because you're trying to be like the tough guy Bill. That's another thing I never really understood, is that he wanted to live up to that, like, TV persona that he had on, like, season 1 of Tough Enough. Instead of just being like Bill, who I heard, like, as a person is a really cool and funny guy. And I got to see some of that sometimes, and I mean, I heard, like, since then he's calmed down a lot, but just, I guess, from my time there, he was in, like, hyper tough enough mode, which is a shame. But I don't know, I was able to take a lot from it. It's gonna sound kind of stupid, but I thought like, maybe I'm not ready to be here yet. Like maybe I'm not, and by here I mean like WWE. I've sort of felt like maybe I really do just want to be in Japan, if not like forever, at least I want to be in Japan first, before having to settle into this lifestyle where like you become a robot, you know? I didn't want to be like the pre-programmed kind of like, you do this, you say this, and you see it in a lot of guys like now that are there. Everyone has like they make their entrance, they take a couple steps, stop, they do their pose, and then like they'll keep walking, then they'll do their in-ring pose, and it just looks so like lifeless. And I mean, like you watch like, you know, the botchamanias and stuff like that, where it's like, you know, the people talk too much, and it's like stupid shit. Like guys are in the ring, and these guys are making $1 bajillion, and they're like in the ring using like their loud voice, saying like, punch me twice, take a step to the right, then walk backwards for 2 seconds, then punch me again. It's like, why do you need to know all that information? You know what I mean? It's like, if you're a real wrestler, like, can't you just like wing that shit? You know, these guys aren't like, they're just too programmed in that sense, where everything has to be written out, everything has to be planned out perfectly, and it doesn't necessarily make the better wrestler or the better match. It makes it look hokey and makes it look like shit.
And a lot of people would criticize some of the things that you do in the ring.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Make it less believable.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that upsets me about Cornette.
And he spouts off a lot of nonsense just to get attention and direct hits and views to himself. And of course, you know, you're going to have some old school fans or hipster guys that are going to want to say, yeah, I totally agree with you. Kenny Omega sucks. His match wasn't 6 stars, it was 0 stars, or, you know, -5 stars, or whatever. It doesn't bother me, but what bothers me is that he is out to maliciously attack people just to forward his own career or lack thereof. And those types of people I can't respect whatsoever. No one on this planet should ever do that. You should never bury someone to forge your own personal interest. And I would never do that to anyone else on the planet. So for a guy like Jim Cornette, what he says doesn't bother me, but the type of person that he is bothers me. And I don't respect him. I can comfortably say that I very much dislike a person like Jim Cornette. So the day that he disappears from this business permanently, I think would be a happy day for pro wrestling. What do wrestling fans expect? Well, you lock up, you do some chain wrestling. You know, one guy will put a guy in a headlock and we'll just fucking go. Shoulder tackle, drop down, whatever. And in WWE, it's like, what do people expect? Bare fucking minimum. You know what I mean? Like, if an indie guy does a body slam, people will go online and see like, oh, it's so awesome. He's the indie, he's the man, bringing that shit from the indies. You know what I mean? Like they'll make it sound like they accomplished a PWG match on WWE TV. And like, I will say, one of the best matches I've seen, not only like lately, but in my life, was a WWE match, which was the best 2 out of 3 falls between Cesaro and Sami Zayn. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for that to be on WWE TV, I thought was so awesome. I mean, it was NXT, but you know what I mean? It's WWE. So it just goes to show that, you know, like...
Well, you know, developmental has changed a lot since
it has. It certainly has. I mean, and I think...
And almost anybody that I could ask you about in your past, people would know you for. Right now, it seems like they're almost parked in NXT.
Yeah. And it's crazy, like, when you see a lot of the stuff that goes on NXT, like, it's captivating television for a wrestling fan. I really enjoy watching NXT, whereas, like, the only things I'll enjoy about watching Raw and SmackDown are when I do, like, the promotional packages. Mm-hmm. They have such a good editing team, you know, when they take, like, all the storyline elements and do, like, kind of like a music video type thing. Like, there's still, like, the greatest, like, editing team on the planet. Like, everything looks like it's going to be so interesting and that it's been so good up to that point. And then when you watch the match, it's just like, you know? Like, for me, it is. Sorry. I feel like I'm just, like, saying, like, everything just sucks. But, like, for me, who's not really a wrestling fan, or for, like, the casual schmuck. I can't turn on WWE and say like, this is what I do for a living. I'd be embarrassed to say that. As weird as that sounds. Like I can't, my friend who's like an American Jiu-Jitsu champion, I can't say like, hey, this is what I do. And you look at it and be like, okay, cool, man. You know, but then like, he'll be like, okay, so you're just like playing around and stuff. You know, like you're not really an athlete, I guess.
Omega's time in DSW left him disillusioned with wrestling, and once free of his WWE obligations, he would seriously consider a career in mixed martial arts and would compete in multiple Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments.
Before the UFC was kind of like this worldwide phenomenon, there's a promotion called Pride. And, you know, UFC was around, of course, but Pride at its peak, I still think was the greatest mixed martial arts of all time, and the greatest stories, the most emotion that I was able to feel during fights. And I had just started to train. I remember when the opportunity arose, and one of my friends that had been doing jiu-jitsu for a lot longer than I had, he had started from before I had left for Deep South Wrestling in 2005. So he was probably doing it since 2003, maybe 2. And another interesting factoid, he has actually had a couple dark matches. So he's done a dark match against Brandon Cutler, did a dark match against Kip Sabian. And he wrestled Daniel Garcia on Ring of Honor, I believe. His name is Jason Geiger. So he's a legitimate black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and when I trained to compete, he was my training partner. And I relied on him a lot to teach me, you know, what he knew and put me on the fast track because I wanted to compete as fast as possible. You know, if I do something, I want to do it to win. That's what everything's for. I just got to win. I want to be the best. I want to be the very best. No one ever was. Anyhow. So, they wanted to make kind of like I don't want to say a UWFI division. It wasn't a division, but they wanted to have matches that somehow had shoot style matches on a wrestling show. We're building up this legitimate mixed martial arts division with fake judges. Everyone just assumed that there'd be a finish to every one of these fights. If the commission were to ask, we're supposed to say, no, it's just an exhibition or it's fake. And pretty much we would just toss guys in, kind of saying like, hey, don't throw bombs, don't actually hurt anybody. Try not to get any blood because you could have blood, but you can fight for real. It's like, what the heck? So Severn coming in, knowing that this is sort of like, I was supposed to be sort of a tomato can for Severn. And I know it's on my official record, my official mixed martial arts record, but guys, it was just me hanging out with Dan backstage saying like, Dan, it's incredible that you're still doing this. What can I do for you, pal? And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, since they don't really want us to strike, we can't get busted open because then the commissioner they'll just cut the match. It'll come to an end. I said, I don't want that to happen. I'd be deflated. Especially, we're bringing in Dan to be Severn. And at that point, it's kind of like, it was a very uncommon thing. Like maybe now if Dan came into AEW, actually that'd be really neat if Dan came into AEW. But, you know, we're more used to seeing legends on TV, in the ring, on stage, or whatever, in some kind of role in AEW. It's commonplace now. But for me, mixing it up with someone like Dan to be Severn, that was just crazy. So I just wanted to do what I could for him. So he was just like, yeah, I'll just like, if you want to clinch up with me and stuff, I'll toss you around a bit. He said, I said, you'll know when I'm going to ground and pound you. He says, I'll pound you. And I said, but, you know, just cover up the important places, and I'll take care of you. I said, okay. And I said, is there anything I should worry about? was like, anything that's hurting on you or whatever? He's like, yeah, this is if you don't mind like doing like, you're careful with my knees and my ankles. Like, yeah, of course. And that was it. So it's like, with all of the shackles that we had placed on us for that match, I kind of went in thinking like, oh, already this isn't a real fight. It can't be. Not only that, but they don't want the commissioner doesn't want us to fight for real. And if it looks like a real fight, they'll stop it. If someone bleeds, they're stopping it. If someone gets knocked out, we're in big trouble. So I just thought, like, let's just show these people that Dan Severn is a legend, and he's one of the greatest amateur wrestlers that has ever stepped into a cage and made the conversion to mixed martial arts. And I think that we did a good job, at least at the time. I think I could do a much better job these days.
Omega's love of professional wrestling would see him return to the sport in 2008 for Jersey All Pro Wrestling, right here in Parts Unknown, otherwise known as New Jersey. Omega would have a solid run in JAPW and win the heavyweight and light heavyweight championships here. But Omega wanted more than America could offer him at the time. He wanted to push his limits, and when he saw footage of Kota Ibushi, he knew what he had to do to unlock his true potential. Omega would upload videos of himself having wrestling matches in the style of the Japanese wrestling company that Ibushi worked for at the time, DDT Pro Wrestling. This was super effective, and DDT would invite Omega to come to Japan to wrestle Ibushi, and he would do just that in 2008.
When I first came out in Japan, I was only supposed to be there for a month, and that was supposed to be it. They said, like, okay, you're here for a month, and I knew that. Whereas, like, the month is over, see you later, thank you so much for everything that you've done, but, like, bye-bye. Luckily, in my second match for the company, I had what was awarded the match of the year in Japan that year. So the company sort of felt handcuffed and thought, like, this guy can't win, like, match of the year and be, like, advertised on TV as, like, a match of the year winner, and then he just disappears. So I got brought back again. So it's like I had another month and the pressure was on. What am I going to do to keep my job out here? But, like, within the boundaries of what the company will allow me to do. So what they had me was in, like, a tag angle. So I thought, shit, a tag angle where it's tough to stand out as a singles performer without looking like you're trying to hog the spotlight. So instead, that's when I tried to accent Ibushi's, sickening athletic ability, and then match it on my own end, and then come up with a double team finishing move that no one's ever seen before, which is like the same corner double 450 splash. And we practice it so that we had the same jump height, the same rotation speed, and landing on the guy perfectly to really, like, blow guys out of the water. And then once people saw that, DDT thought, like, oh man, we gotta bring this guy out again. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of foreigners, when they come to Japan, they just think, oh shit, I'm here, I'm a star. Whatever, I'll just do what I've been doing. And then that's it, they're done. Like, they'll never even think to do something that will get them a job back. Or they won't understand, they won't do their homework enough to know what they've seen, what they haven't seen. They'll just, like, okay, I'm in Japan, so I'll throw, like, stiff forms and, like, try to, like, rock the guy's world, you know? Or, you know, I find, like, a lot of them think, like, well, I'm in Japan, that's cool, this is where, you know, the big money is. They just take the wrong attitude about it, and that's why they never come back. Relating that to WWE, of course, there are some situations where it's just, like, no matter what you do. I mean, you look at Zack Ryder. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was a guy that really took, you know, kind of like a failing angle and you know, did his own internet TV show and stuff like that, and really became a success story. He defied, like, all of the odds, and yet still, like, they didn't get behind him. It wasn't like in my case where DDT said, like, ah, damn, this guy's getting over, we got to bring him back out. It was sort of like, ah, damn, Zack Ryder's getting over, fuck them, you know. It's sort of like that sort of thing. Where, but I do think in a lot of cases, when you sort of find a way to go outside of the boundaries while still being within the boundaries is how you find success, which is why Daniel Bryan was successful in CM Punk and all those guys like that, when I think WWE probably originally never thought they could become the super like megastars that they are today. Because even when I was doing competitive jiu-jitsu, I would try to have entertaining matches. You know, like I would care a lot of, like, I'd have to cut weight, but I would try to cut weight but still look good, you know what I mean? Like I was still worried. I had like the wrestler part of me wanted to like look aesthetically good too, you know? And then the wrestler part of me wanted to entertain with my jiu-jitsu matches, not just win or not just worry about losing. Like I really wanted to have flashy finishes and stuff like that.
The first video that went viral, and I know.
Yeah.
How can we talk about Kenny Omega without talking about some of your famous viral videos?
Let's do it.
Was the King of Anywhere match?
Yep.
Did that tie in any way to?
It did.
That first.
Yep.
Tour.
It did. I had received that MySpace message from that woman, and she'd said DDT wants to hype you in some way, but they don't want to do it in written fashion. They want to show something. And they said they want to have it so that they can also talk about it in the newspaper as well. So it has to be like a visual thing. And so they just want to show how crazy you are and that you're willing to like take it to the extreme when you face Kota Ibushi. So they said like, however it is you want to do that, it's in your ballpark.
See, a normal person would have said, all right, well, let me cut my 45, 60-second promo.
Right.
Tell them how I'm going to Japan.
Yeah, and I had thought like, I could do that, but I couldn't speak a lick of Japanese at that time, and I thought if I kind of had cut the style of promo that I was cutting in Jersey All Pro, like there's no way to even accurately like translate that, and even if you did accurately translate it, it was just gonna sound like just goofy because I just say weird words. So I'd come up with the idea to do that Anywhere match, and I called one of the guys that was like, you know, one of the better performers that we have in the city and a friend of mine, and I said like, hey, I got this idea. I don't know if you ever did like backyard wrestling when you were a kid. This is but kind of want to do like a backyard style match and like tape it, but like have a story with it, and then whatever, send it to Japan. Send it, worst comes to worst, like it'll just be funny. This is, but I don't know, let's try to make it good. And I don't know, at that time I was like really in Jackie Chan mood.
You can tell.
Yeah. Where like, if you know, there's some, you're in like, there's a house and like there's a yard, there's sand, there's mountains, water, like there's so many things to work with that I wanted to take like a real kind of cinematic approach to the match.
That was your cottage in the video, right?
Yes, it actually, okay, yeah, it was. Yeah, that's sort of like the spoiler. It actually was my cottage, but not the guy's cottage. I was playing video games in it. Yeah, that's mine. So we filmed everything there, and you know, with the big
Did
dramatic.
you bring in someone to do a camera? Because you know, I'm not trying to interrupt your story.
Yeah.
But it's shot. It's not like a backyard wrestling shot. It's.
Oh, okay. Right. The guy that taped it is just a dude. Like he's just a guy that held a camera. And because I knew that people might not bite on it, on like the match itself, like if it was like a full-length match, we really like sliced it up. And there were times when there'd be like a dramatic scene change. For example, like there's a moment where we kind of like battle like outwards, and then I think a guy like hits like a gate and kind of flies open, and we go down the road, and then the next thing you know, like we're in this huge like gravel pit area. That area is actually like 10 minutes away, so I knew like we can't just be doing this for 10 minutes because then we'll lose the people, you know. So we had to slice that out. And even like moving from the yard to the dock, like I wanted that to be cut out, Like I really just wanted, for people that have like no patience for like watching wrestling and just want to get to the point, like I want it to be friendly for those fans. And like, because that video was successful, that sort of changed the entire way I put together matches and thought about wrestling. And that's also why I get some of my toughest criticisms too, is because I go about my matches that way. I wrestle for people that aren't wrestling fans, which is why like wrestling, like people that are very passionate about wrestling sometimes hate what I do. Like they want, you know, they wish I would just disappear off the face of the planet. To be accepted into like DDT's family was something I was like very prideful for, and I would have done anything for them. So, you know, that's why I did like my most like extreme type stuff was for them. I used a lot of my best like ideas for the matches I did with that company. And, you know, I studied as much as I could to learn Japanese because I wanted to be able to communicate with the fans more on behalf of the company. A lot of the things I did was just because I wanted DDT to become bigger and better. And, you know, I wanted that original type of style to be seen by more people. And I think Ibushi felt the same way. So like we would have our wrestling matches when we felt that it was needed, but then we would also show like the more creative side of things too. You know, in front of like a large crowd to try to introduce like a complete new element to wrestling that people hadn't seen. My first goal was just to go to Japan and then put all on the line, have no regrets. Then that worked out. My next dream from there was to help build DDT into something that wasn't just like a joke indie, like a sleazy indie fed. And now we're like number 2, a solid number 2. And so I feel like, oh, that's great. And now I'm starting to feel like, and as I'm getting like older and I'm like feeling hurt every day, I'm starting to like think about the more selfish kind of goals, you know, like maybe start thinking about what kind of money I'm making, you know, and something that'll lead to a more stable future. The money in Japan is good enough to where you could make it your full-time job. Like I don't have to go back to Canada and like work part-time, or I don't have to work part-time in Japan or anything like that. But you know, you hear about what like top guys in WWE are making, it never compares to that. So I guess if I was to say like what my goal is now is, you know, I don't want to be doing well for a foreigner, if that makes sense. I want to be doing well for like a Japanese superstar, like a Japanese wrestler. I want to be like one of the top like Japanese guys. You know, New Japan just being a much bigger company, you know, it's this tough competition for me to stand out above that. Like the people that, it just seems that the people that are there, they'll always be taken more seriously. And I love being able to do the comedy and all that, but I guess I'm at the point where now that I feel more banged up, it's time to buckle down and kind of get to work a little bit. I want to show not just my once a year New Japan, like Best of Super Junior type stuff. I would love to have a more serious run in New Japan. Yeah, that's sort of my goal, is just to not be like every other foreigner that goes to Japan or New Japan, to be like just a guy. You know what I mean? Okay, for like AJ.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
You beat me to it. Are you envious of the spot AJ has? He leaves. TNA TV comes in, they give him the belt.
Right. Okay. I'm sort of glad you said that, you know, because it's tough for me to bring that up.
It's gotta be tough.
Yeah, it is. It's like Japan's a place where I've like given everything for, just to even get like invited to wrestle for New Japan. You know what I mean? And to see that, you know, a guy like AJ, who's awesome, and I'm never ever gonna say anything bad about AJ. Like, there's no way. To come in, just walk in and win the belt, it's like, oh shit. Maybe if I had tried harder in the American scene, that I just would have been called up to be like a huge deal right off the bat. But instead, the way I went about it was start off as a nobody and work my way up from there.
After spending 6 years wrestling for DDT in Japan and other small American promotions, Omega would sign his first big-time contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2014, and he would join the Young Bucks in Bullet Club. 2 years later, he would turn on AJ Styles and take over the legendary stable. In the aftermath of Omega taking over Bullet Club's leadership, he and the Young Bucks formed their own subgroup within the stable called the Elite. Omega and the Young Bucks felt the need to create something new. So much had changed since the formation of the faction that Bullet Club was not so much the Bullet Club anymore. Omega noticed that when people said the Bullet Club had been doing some really cool stuff, they always meant him and the Young Bucks and not the other members of the group. Nick and Matt would start filming their life on the road as professional wrestlers and uploading it to YouTube under the name of Being the Elite. They would add more members to Bullet Club as well: Adam Cole, Adam Page, and eventually Cody Rhodes. The group of Cody, Adam Cole, Adam Page, and the Young Bucks would spend more time in the United States representing Bullet Club and Ring of Honor, while Omega would stay based in Japan in the main event scene of New Japan Pro Wrestling. If you'd like to know more about how the Young Bucks changed the world again, make sure you check out that video on this channel.
And if you'd like to see more videos like this one, the best way to do that is to subscribe and ring that bell a few times until it turns solid. Apparently, if you just click it once, it's not good enough. Why isn't it good enough? I don't know. It doesn't seem fair, does it? What can I say? YouTube can be pretty unreasonable when it comes to these things. And here's the sad truth. Even if you subscribe and ring the bell until it promises to alert you when new videos drop, it probably still won't. So what will you need to do if you like this channel and you want to see all the videos released here is to go and get a 4x6 postcard and write to YouTube directly. Tell them that you very much like the videos on the Mr. Hartgrave from Parts Unknown channel, and please, please, please notify me when new videos drop. Short of that, my best advice would be to simply come back once a week and click on the videos tab on the channel and see what I posted this week and watch all the videos you haven't seen. Trust me, they're all super good, especially that 1-hour video on Will Ospreay that totally didn't break my brain and leave me a broken shell of the man I used to be. The wrestling world would be changed forever in 2017 at Wrestle Kingdom 11 when Kenny Omega would challenge Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in a match that is now known as one of the greatest matches in the history of professional wrestling. I was a lapsed wrestling fan. I hadn't watched wrestling in about 10, 20 years. News of Omega versus Okada got to me. But I heard that, the best wrestling match in the entire history of wrestling happened. Right. And, you get curious. Late night, I was laying in bed, and I pulled it up on the internet. You can go find it. All this stuff, if you want to watch Omega versus Okada, all 4 of these matches, you can just search them on Google. They're not on YouTube. They're on other sites. But there's English commentary, which was my first surprise. I thought I'd have to watch it, and I was determined. I was like, I'll just watch it with Japanese commentary. No, it's English commentary, so you have it. There's no barrier here. You don't need to watch anything before or after or around it to understand the story.
of Omega versus Okada. That's the other surprise I had when checking this out. All of the story is basically in the ring. And after I watched the first Omega versus Okada match, which is my favorite one still, I was hooked and I had to watch the other three. I had to see the story end. I wanted to see it again. And every time they've matched up, it's been just as good. And people say better. I really like the original match because of how insane Kenny Omega is in the original one.
I didn't know about New Japan. Ring of Honor didn't have a TV deal at the time, or like a very like network cable kind of deal. So I didn't know a lot of Ring of Honor guys. I knew Generation Me. I didn't know the Young Bucks. I knew them from their very short run in TNA. I knew whatever the hell Okada was, where he was like the Green Hornet ripoff.
Oh God, yeah, Okada. Yeah. Okada.
That's how I first experienced these wrestlers, and I had no idea about Japan. And then, like you said, this like monumental event happened, and this match happened, and it was like a bomb went off, and it was just like the aftermath reached all wrestling fans and just people at all in general.
It's the story of Omega becoming the best wrestler in the world. Right. I think that's the best way to kind of sum it up, is when he starts, he isn't. He has a lot of promise, and by the end, he has figured it out. He's become less crazy. You know, he has refined himself. He's channeled his energy. He's fought off his dark side, and I mentioned it before, you can tell how evil Omega is by his hair color. It changes from black to blonde as you go through this series of events. His gear changes from like the Terminator to like rainbow. He has like rainbow colored tights in the very last match, and he's reunited with his long-term friend, his tag team partner, Ibushi, by the end as well. And so with the help of his friends, and he's brought everybody back into his life. When he first fought Okada, he had pushed everybody away in pursuit of this goal. And once again, you can gather all this from watching the match. After I watched, once I got to like the fourth match in the series, like I was just feeling emotions.
Yeah.
And it was weird. I was like, why am I so emotional about professional wrestling? And I'm like, wow, maybe it's worth getting back into.
And that's the entire point of a wrestling match, is to make you feel things. Yeah. It's supposed to make you care. It's supposed to make you suspend your disbelief. Because, I mean, let's be real. We're grown men wrestling around in our underwear. Like, for anyone who does not watch it and does not give it the time of day to get drawn in, it looks very weird. But whenever you sit down and you watch it and you get into the stories that these men are telling, you're buying into the painting that you're watching these two artists paint at the same time. It's such a beautiful thing. And Okada versus Kenny Omega, I've never seen Ibushi team with Kenny Omega in my life. No. I didn't know that they used to be friends. I had no idea about any of that, and I still got all like choked up watching them finally reunite at the end of these series of matches. This was like a nexus event of what we now know as modern day wrestling. Just like Rock and Austin was a very like nexus event for what wrestling was in the 90s. Yeah. And Hogan and Andre before that. Like, there's these feuds, there's these series of matches, there's these moments that become the catalyst for everything that wrestling becomes for the next decade. And this series of matches was 100% the catalyst event for the wrestling that we get to enjoy today, and largely on the AEW stage.
This series of 4 matches between Okada and Omega between January of 2017 to June of 2018 would go down as the most influential series of matches in the last 20 years of wrestling. These matches would set the stage for Jericho versus Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 12 and eventually to the creation of All Elite Wrestling. This was not just a series of amazing matches between two wrestlers in their prime. It was the apex of what was possible outside of the WWE and proof that there was a market for another style of wrestling in America. No matter what you think about Dave Meltzer, he was and is a respected journalist in his field, so for him to go out of the way and break his star rating system for the Okada-Omega matches says a lot about just how unreal the series was.
when you talk about the matches, who remembers any of your fucking matches, Will? Nobody remembers them. You want to compare apples to apples now? Who's got the better matches against Okada? Who's got the better matches against Naito? Who's got the better matches against Ibushi, Goto, Tanahashi, fucking Yoshihashi, all these motherfuckers? And I know what you're probably going to say. Well, you ain't never wrestled the way I did, brother. Gives a shit. Who fucking, let me fucking do some of that to that. You know, I'm like that. We're talking about the major players, the stuff that was bringing in the ching ching, bing bing, a la ting ting. That was yours truly. That was me only, not you. It wasn't you. You never made a cent. You never made a dime for the company. Nothing. Not at all. Call yourself the king all you want. Call yourself the best all you want. You ain't that. I was that. And that memory still remains. They ain't never forgetting me. But I wouldn't be surprised if they already forgot you, Will. That's why you're looking to go out to Uganda. You're trying to make your own legend out there. But guess what? If I go to Uganda, I become the Ugandan king. Me. I do. But if you want it so bad, you can have it. Have it for a few months. Then maybe I take that flight. We'll see what happens then, huh? Pal. Buddy pal. All these guys. Jesus Christ. Every freaking person. I'm the best in the world. I'm the best in the world. I'm the best in the world. Oh, wow. Well, since you said it your fucking self, I guess it must be true. What the fuck is going on in wrestling these days? Everyone has to say it about themselves? I never fucking said about myself. This shit. People calling me the best belt machine. People calling me the best of all time. I never once said it. I never once. These names are given to me, and thus I repeat it. That's fucking all. That's all I'm doing. I'm a victim. I'm a victim of being the best in the world. You guys are just imposters. You're fucking frauds. Hello? What? Bitch. Ho! Go ahead. Fucking recite that formula over and over and over again. That Dave Meltzer formula. Get that fucking Dave Meltzer checklist every time. See if anyone remembers or gives a fuck aside from Dave Meltzer. Bitch. Bitch. No one do. Just him. One guy. Period. I get the love of all the people and Dave Meltzer. Try doing that, motherfucker. No. I am not healing on Meltzer. He is just but one guy with one opinion who's watched a lot of wrestling. It counts for something. It counts for something. But he's jumped the fucking shark, so it doesn't count for much anymore. He has jumped the motherfucking shark, and guess who is to blame for that? Me. I'm the guy. I broke this scale. It fucked up something in his brain where he doesn't even know what good matches anymore. He's just like, Kenny, you opened my mind to this weird fucking world of wrestling that I never saw before in my life. And I think he doesn't understand it anymore. He stopped being able to understand. He can't comprehend what's going on. I opened Pandora's box and it's just running rampant now. That's all it is.
To explain it to someone who has no idea what the fuck this is, who knows WWE, it's like Okada was like Roman Reigns. And then Omega would be... would be like Shinsuke Nakamura, right?
Okay.
Like a young Shinsuke Nakamura or something. Like a Japanese wrestler who would come over who had no business winning the WWE World Championship from Roman Reigns at the height of his powers, right?
Right.
That would have been mind-blowing. And then to also put on four of the greatest wrestling matches that anyone had ever seen.
Insane to think about looking back at it.
It's a hell of a moment. I don't know how you recapture that. I don't know how you set that up. Because that's what I was saying earlier, like what the faith that New Japan Pro Wrestling had in Kenny Omega and Okada to even give them this platform to do this thing.
Right.
Is unbelievable. I don't know who you would even give that to now. Other than these guys again, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Put the belt back on Kenny Omega, let him hold it for I don't know, but it doesn't even hit the same.
No.
I don't know. It'll be a cool match regardless of what it is.
Right. Yeah. I'm fine with them saying, let's just do it
Let's
one
just
more
do it
time.
again.
One time.
Just
yeah.
for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah.
Doesn't fucking matter.